And now, podcasting from the sun-scorched desert Southwest, weighing in at a combined total of 340 pounds, Brad Winchester, Tyler McDowell-Blanken, are Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell-Blanken. Tyler, it's Sunday. Man, I need a break. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's Sunday, man. It's all is well over here. I'll just pass it to you right off the bat because you had a pretty hellacious week, but you are on the precipice of this glorious, glorious time in the school year for our Southern Arizona teams. It's known as rodeo break. It's close, Brad. You're almost there.
Very close. Yeah, it was a really tough week this week. There was a lot of pain at our school. That we had some students that are hurting. Some recent graduate died under some pretty awful circumstances. That's not to say nationally we haven't had anything. Prayers with the victims in Kansas City. We've had a pretty terrible week, but one thing that was potentially terrible, I still haven't seen it in the news. Tyler, I sent you a voicemail or a voice message on my way home the other day. I watched a parachuter coming down with a couple of other parachuters, and this dude came in hot. I have never seen anybody with a parachute coming down that fast before. I hope he's all right, because it looked like he was carrying lead plates all the way to the earth with a little tiny parachute just flying toward the ground. I don't know what happened.
This is a voicemail I remember well. And funny enough, as you were sending me that, I was preparing to head out to a high school game. They had state playoffs started this past week. Shout out to the Cortez High School boys basketball team. A colleague and I went to the game because we know the coach over there, really good dude. Shout out to Corey. And funny enough, I didn't tell you this, Brad, but speaking of just like odd things, so really intense game. It was Cortez versus Moon Valley. Moon Valley is the high school Richard Jefferson attended, famous U of A Wildcat, right. Famous NBA player. Yeah, Moon Valley, pretty storied program. So really competitive game, raucous atmosphere. Cortez wins 71-67, and we're leaving the game. And so my colleague and I, her name's Cassidy, she's awesome. We were in the parking lot just conversing about the game and work and gossip and other things. And then all of a sudden, I kid you not, there's about 5 squad cars that descend onto the campus of Cortez. And so we looked at each other like, does this mean we should like leave and just continue our conversation on Monday, or what should we do? We ended up staying, but then there was a helicopter as well that was like shining a light, like Major Hook bat signal vibes. This helicopter is like shining a light on the campus. So I don't know what they were looking for or who they were looking for, but you had your parachuter. We almost had some sort of situation following a 4A play-in playoff game. Friday was kind of nuts for both of us, but here we are able to speak about it and laugh about it. And luckily it calmed down a few minutes after, like 15 minutes later, everything seemed clear. So to your point, luckily, I think the parachuter is okay. Hopefully, I think everyone left Cortez okay, and here we are now.
I can't. The most shocking thing about that is that was on Friday. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Friday night. I was like, this is why I usually stay in on Fridays and watch Dateline, because I just sometimes worry about people and pride, and it was a beautiful occasion, but yeah, it was a strange situation for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. You had a conversation in a parking lot, Tyler. Other things happen in parking lots. We found out about a week ago. Let's play the music. It's time for promo of the week.
And now, the promo of the week.
Some quick background. We put this, by we I mean Brad, put this in our pod document. Our pod flow is the official title. Promo of the week, parking fees. And I was like, oh yeah, we meant to talk about this 2 or 3 episodes ago. Shout out to Tessa Lawler joining us last week. Check out that episode if you haven't already. And I still have so much vitriol for this, Brad. So here is the story. during our trip to the Footprint Center for AEW Dynamite Phoenix, favorite wrestling show I've ever attended live, I ended up in the Jefferson parking garage, which if you've been to Footprint Center, it's very close. It's awesome. So I prepared to pay $10, maybe $20 in order to see some AEW. Won't you know, Brad, when we got to the Jefferson parking structure, it ended up being $30.
That's so crazy.
To park a vehicle.
So crazy.
Not to get it washed. Certainly not a valet situation. Just to park the thing on the third floor and walk over to the Desmond where we ate, and then the Footprint Center. So I know we're in an election year. I know people have certain issues that are particularly important to them. I think this is on my list now, Brad. Where do the candidates? I think we're going to end up with Trump versus Biden again, which is a whole separate episode. But where do our candidates stand on parking fees and parking garages? Because this is nuts. I've had enough of it, and I can't believe I shelled out $30 for this thing. It's one thing if I shell out $30 to pay for some Orange Cassidy socks that my co-host was willing to get me in line at AEW, but $30 just to park the vehicle, is an atrocity, and we got to do better than that. There just has to be a better way. But tell me about your parking situation, Brad. You, Alf, and George, it seemed like had just a better experience with parking your vehicle.
Not a lot better. $10 better. It was $20 to park over by Chase Field, and then we walked. My big gripe of the night was with this thing and GPS. The phones, man. If you ever use the map and you're like, okay, I'm looking at this, it's showing me pointing this direction. It looks like we just got to turn right, and then we're gonna be there. And then you start walking, and then it's like you're walking the wrong direction.
Switches up on you.
Yeah, because it can't tell where you are at all. Do you worry
about people watching you try to navigate? Because I think about I look like a total tourist right now, even though I'm an Arizonan through and through. I just don't come down here.
I don't. I no longer care. I got turned around
I'm self-conscious.
Well, I got turned around at night in San Fran, walking around to get back to our hotel, like downtown San Francisco, walking back from the pier, and I don't care anymore. I will hold that thing out with a flashlight on, desperately hammering it to refresh so I know where I'm going. Because the day before, there was a whole bunch of crime reported right on the street we were walking on to get back, and we had a stroller, so it was deeply unpleasant. So, now I don't care. If I look like a tourist, fine. I'm going to be one that can outrun my family.
Period.
I want to say I'll defend them, but I don't believe that'll happen.
Well, I think with these absurd parking charges, Brad, $20 for you, $30 for me, combined we shelled out $50 just to park vehicles. That's nuts. Between the weeks we had, I think we could use some relaxation, and luckily our sponsor provides that in spades. Let's tell you more about them. We're nearing the end of February, which is hard to believe, which means it's almost spring. Check out our latest sponsor, Grand Patio, to make sure you're all set for the great weather and great memories that await. For over 20 years, Grand Patio has partnered with renowned designers to create collections that are equal parts luxurious and livable, the kind that can transform your backyard into a personal oasis. Their products include umbrellas, recliners, gazebos, sectionals, and much more. Visit our affiliate link, grandpatio.sjv.io/GIPod. Once again, that's grandpatio.sjv.io/GIPod to shop their collection today. Oh no, Brad is totally muted right now, but Brad, we left that behind in 2020, man. I still do that all the time.
No, I coughed and I wanted coffee.
You were being thoughtful.
Yeah, I was trying to update the pod, and no, it didn't work out. You know what I need? I need to relax. So we'll be checking out Grand Patio later on because that vacation's coming up. And all I wanted to say was we can't stop. We can't relax. We don't have time. So let's talk WWE. Hit me with your question.
Yeah, let's get into it. So on Raw, Seth Rollins took culpability for the Roman Reigns we know today in all of his tyranny and historic title reign. But if we fast forward to SmackDown, Roman and the Bloodline officially welcomed The Rock. Rock brought out the heel vest, took shots at polygamy and fans who don't wipe herpes from their lips.
That one's,
And
yeah,
he
that
was
one
in his
specifically.
he was in his bag.
It
And
was
he
it was
ended
incredible. Yeah.
it was incredible, man. I want to hear your thoughts on it. He ended up throwing up. He ended the night, I should say, by throwing up an L instead of the one finger salute that his bloodline brethren have been known for all these years. All that being said, how are you feeling about this storyline heading into WrestleMania? More specifically, after what we saw this past week, are you more optimistic, less optimistic, or feeling about the same as it pertains to WWE sticking the landing by the end of WrestleMania?
You know, I don't know. It's a great question by you because I really have no idea. I want to say that I feel better about it because the Rock. I mean, it's this Rock. He came out with like the designer shirt, very heel Rock back in the '90s. The open vest with nothing underneath it, like all of it was hitting all the marks for me, Tyler. So on the one hand, I'm completely in. Now on the other hand, I thought they did a masterful job of framing the shots and allowing The Rock to be a heel, taking out Utah, man, like leaning all the way into Mormon stereotypes and just, oh, it was so funny. Bringing up MJ beating the Jazz just to get heat. He did that when it happened. Like just incredible.
That's hilarious. That's
Um,
true. That's very true.
that was a shout out from something he did like almost 30 years ago on I don't know if it was the same program. I don't know if it was SmackDown. It's probably on Raw, but just incredible work. I loved it. I loved what Roman did. It's I think I'm probably more I'm going to say I'm more optimistic. If for nothing else, that it's a new wrinkle to the bloodline that was sorely needed, rather than a versus the bloodline, which would have happened. Which I think we're both in agreement that it's going to. That this was a swerve. Rock turning his head and saying you whiny bitches or whatever he said, something similar to that, was always turning toward the bloodline when he was calling them out or pointing at the bloodline, making it look like it was the fans, but he was calling them out directly. Where everybody puts their one up and Rock does this, which I don't know. I don't think that's finger guns. I think he's giving people a signal that he's throwing up the L, and we'll see what happens, man. Like, I think it's just a bunch of stuff. On the other hand, what do you think the odds are that he watches the daily product or the weekly product, I should say?
Yeah. Does he have enough time in his schedule
I
to?
just,
If I struggle with keeping up with the daily product, the weekly product, I can only imagine what Dwayne Johnson has.
he's got new partnerships with film studios. He is now on the board for TKO. He is, I think, still doing stuff with whatever the XFL is or was.
That's coming up next month. Yep.
He's got his Terramana stuff that he is I don't know if he's the full owner or partial owner of. He's got all of these different things. He's got his Under Armour gimmick. He's got his film schedule. He's got Zoa Energy. He has all of these different business ventures and entertainment ventures. My guess is that he doesn't know any of it because he said Roman Reigns is the Universal Champion, which is like a quarter correct because he's also all of that other crap too. So I don't think he has a clue. And I think maybe he just screwed it up because he could have thrown his fist up in the air then and called back the Nation of Domination. And I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. But I don't know, man. Like I'm struggling. I want to say that this is all purposeful and meaningful because that's what it feels like. And I think Triple H gets that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had all the vignettes and stuff leading to Bray Wyatt's return. And then all the stuff in the background. Like I loved all of that. This feels very much like that with The Rock, where The Rock is going to be there because their story is just beginning, as Rock said, to Roman and not the crowd.
I left this week in WWE, this past week, like you, feeling more optimistic. And I would even take it a step further and say, this segment on SmackDown, I'm definitely going to be reading into it. this segment on SmackDown, particularly how it ended with the finger salute, I absolutely believe it was intentional by Rock. I totally think he knew what he was doing there. And to me, I'm now seeing how this could play out, where perhaps Rock and Cody are, in fact, working in cahoots. I'm not sure if that means Rock costs Roman at Mania or Roman loses to Cody. We can only hope. And then then Rock turns on Roman. To me, this just signified WWE is this phrase is used everywhere now. So I'm starting to loathe it, but they're going to stick the landing. They're going to have Cody finish that story, leave Philly with gold, and then we're full steam ahead into Rock versus Roman. Hopefully at next year's WrestleMania, the first Netflix WrestleMania, whatever we want to call it. I think that's the proper place to have it. My fear is that the Saudi money is going to be too enticing to pass up. And maybe we get Rock versus Roman at the next Saudi show or whenever it is in the fall. But yeah, I'm feeling way more optimistic, Brad. This signaled to me that they do have a plan. I agree with you that it is a pivot. Once they heard the fan reaction, they had to do something else. They had to make sure Cody was in this main event, which was always the right play from the beginning. I think this is actually going to work out for all parties involved in the end. I'm not sure where Seth stands on all this. To me, he definitely seems like a background player in this. I
Sure.
want him to
Yeah.
have that WrestleMania main event, but I'm just curious to follow his trajectory after this storyline. But I think all parties involved are going to be better off for it. I think Cody's getting that gold. I think we can have more nuance and more layers to Roman's character once the bloodline dissolves. And I think Rock is going to have a hand in doing that.
What about? I have no idea. I haven't looked at where any of these things are, and they're out through August for pay-per-views and all that stuff. I was checking to see if there was a Tucson show so Freya can go because she really wants to go. What if they held one of their bigger shows at? Hear me out here. I had to look this up because I had no idea what the answer is. Aloha Stadium in Hawaii, 50,000 people capacity for the head of the table.
Wow.
They'd have to do it on the football field and set up seating on there, and it couldn't interfere with college football. So it wouldn't be able to happen until like the Rumble. Getting that many people there to fill it too might be a challenge, but I don't think so. If they make the tickets affordable enough in Hawaii for people to go, people will show up. If it's like WrestleMania, people will go there. It would absolutely be a boon to the economy there. And that The Rock has a soft spot in his heart for the people of Hawaii, especially after the fires and whatnot. And people have been critical about that. And do any of us really know the inner workings and how money gets? I don't know how any of that stuff works. So I'm not going to bother doing that, but I feel like there's something there and they could do that relatively quickly afterward. I'm not saying put Mania there because I think that would be dumb, but maybe SummerSlam, maybe. I don't know what the best time of the year in Hawaii is for having an open air stadium filled with people and not get dumped on. So I don't know. But I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be great. I even recall this week listening to former guest Cedric Welton. Shout out to Ced. He mentioned on Women's Wrestling Talk Live that Rock and Roman could even be its own separate event. Maybe the event instead of SummerSlam or Mania, maybe the next Crown Jewel show, maybe the event is exclusive head of the table premium live event. And to your point, Brad, you could totally I believe you could fill a huge arena, maybe even Aloha Stadium, if Rock versus Roman is at the top of the card. It's a dream match.
Yeah.
I'm glad that what's funny about this conversation is we still don't exactly know what the WrestleMania plans are. It hasn't been Roman versus Cody has been announced. We don't know if that's night 1 or night 2. We don't know if the night 1 main event is the tag match, Roman Rock versus Cody Seth. I want to see how this all plays out, but I feel way more optimistic that we are going to get what we're hoping for this Mania. And whenever Rock versus Roman happens, I believe it's still in the works. And it's going to be big business, man. We'll get into big business talk later with AEW, but Rock versus Roman is going to move merchandise. It's going to move tickets. It's going to happen the right way this time, which I was not so certain of 3 or 4 GIs ago.
Final thought here is that to the point that they could have their own pay-per-view, absolutely. They could have their own, just that one night event. It reminded me of the Island Death match that I had only heard about, and then I went and watched it. I was like, holy crap, this is violent. Between Antonio Inoki and Masa Saito. And it's literally what it sounds like. They were on an island and had a death match, but it was just them. That's it. Like kind of Rock and Mankind in the empty arena during the halftime of the Super Bowl. Very, very much felt like that. Just some cameras. And so I could see that. I would want it surrounded by people though, but that would be a really cool one to do in Hawaii, or even a small setting somewhere could be really cool. ECW arena or the discount ECW arena that they used for other events, since it's not a bingo hall. A lot of potential there though, obviously, with that kind of star power, which they really hyped up on commentary leading up to the Rock and Roman at the end. It was there's never been this much star power on a SmackDown before, which, okay, calm down. Let's settle down a little bit there. But yeah, it's undeniable that you have Roman and Rock at the same show. That's a lot of star power. So my question is, because I knew where you were going to go with this, is not related to The Rock. It is not related to Roman. It is not related to Cody. It is not related to Seth. It is related to Tiffany Stratton. I thought you might appreciate this one, Tyler. So Tiffany Stratton's ascension to the main roster. Simple questions. That's right, plural. What do you think of her presentation so far? And what do you hope to see from her in 2024?
I'm so glad you asked about Tiffany. And shout out to the women of SmackDown. Naomi made her return.
Yes.
We're obviously going to talk about Zelina Vega in a moment.
Zelina Vega is amazing.
Yeah, and then do you remember when they went backstage and Jade Cargill was just hanging out next to Braun Breaker, SmackDown's latest ID, and then Bianca,
who was officially announced to come to SmackDown.
Yes, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan. I think that's becoming a bit now for us every week, as we just spend a few minutes giving flowers to women's wrestling, period, but particularly the women's roster in WWE, because it just continues to be really, really amazing. To that point, Tiffany Stratton, what do I think of her presentation thus far? I think it's been outstanding. Such a great decision to have her in the Elimination Chamber. I don't know that any of us are picking her to win and to face Rhea at WrestleMania.
I feel like that finisher would be hard to pull off in the elimination.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, her moveset, her presentation, the PME, it's so good. Even the entrance is also fun. I kind of wish that we had the sound of the cameras, like the shutter bugs taking her picture as she enters. I missed that. I know they didn't bring that over from NXT, but her matching up with Zelina Vega, really, really fun contrast of styles. Again, her advancing to Elimination Chamber. It's been great. They've clearly treated her, Tiffany, that is, like a star, like someone who matters, like someone who's on the come up, maybe not contending for gold right at this very moment, but someone who you need to keep your eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens at Elimination Chamber, I'm hoping that it's going to set up a path for her at Mania. She's been great, man. It's amazing that she's taken to wrestling so quickly.
Yes.
They've treated her like the star she is. Important for her to beat Zelina. And then we got Zelina in her own feud, right? The LWO feud going on. I have no qualms with how Tiffany Stratton's been presented. It's been great. And sooner than later, she's going to have gold, Brad. And I think in part it's going to be because how they've presented her and how successful this her ascension to the main roster has been. I love everything that they're doing with Tiffany Stratton. How about you?
I completely agree. I have no notes. I love watching her work. I think she fit in there pretty flawlessly and immediately. And that's not always the case. There are people that should be able to fit in right away. Some people that are on the main roster, I'm not gonna point people out, just haven't really worked for some reason. They're not clicking like they did when they were in NXT or other places. And I don't really know why. I can't really put my finger on it. And it's not just the women, it's definitely the men. And I'm not really sure what to say there. But Tiffany Stratton's not one of those people. She has fit in right away. And I'm with you. I think gold comes sooner than later. Well, Tyler, it's been a while. It's actually been a couple of weeks now because we didn't get to do this. I know we got roses coming in after Valentine's Day later in the show. But we got to dig him up first. So play the music. It's time for Digging Deeper. Tyler, last week, this week, I'm going to be quick. Lots of digging happened over on Oak Island. Lots of random little bits and bots were found. They found coinage. They found pots. Pottery anyway. They found a lot of stuff. Some of it dating back very long ago, and some of it not as long ago. They also found this giant boulder in the middle of the swamp where there is a submerged old stone road that was likely used to offload things from ships. They also found ship planking and decking, and the theory that a ship was in between the islands was sunk, and then the island was kind of filled to make one island out of two is starting to make more sense as they continue to find ship parts in the center of the island, which is pretty incredible. Or presumably ship parts that go back to, the dates are crazy. The stone road, some of the dates put it back to the 1200s, which would reset everything that we know about North America. And some of it, most of it seems to fit around the timeline of the finding of the Concepcion treasure ship. And the last episode was them digging in the garden shaft into the old shaft that used to be there and reinforcing it and getting down to basically the bottom of it and realizing there's more stuff below it, which can't be what the original garden shaft was. It must be the original tunnel. And they're closer than ever to finding treasure. It's feeling like it's finally going to start paying off here because it's been, they were so close last year. And then they had an awful hurricane or storms come in and flood the tunnel, and they couldn't get the water to stop coming in. So the whole season has been them trying to figure out a way to get the water to stop flooding into their mine shaft. So anyway, next week should reveal a whole bunch. We're nearing the end of the season. I'm sure we're going to start getting answers, or at least more questions and a plan for what's next. Really excited about it. Now, my question for you, Tyler, anticipation for the future. How do you deal with something you're really excited for, anticipation of really big moments? And how do you deal with those moments if they're letdowns?
Wow. So this is something that's been with me certainly in my younger years, and then even now. Anticipating big events, it's a lot. It's truly a mix of excitement to get there, whether that's a graduation or I think back to playing sports in high school, namely basketball. Like, oh man, we have this big game coming up. It's excitement. It's certainly anticipation. It's also nerves as well. Still, even as an adult, I get those nerves when it's time to perform, when it's a big presentation, whatever it is. You start to maybe even have some self-doubt creep in, but I think I've gotten better at recognizing what I can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot about pro wrestling, Brad. Like, I can only imagine the nerves of being a pro wrestler and performing in front of folks. But when you know you're that person, when you know you're that guy, when you know you can bring it, you don't have to worry that much. And I get nervous about like a 20-minute slideshow. I'm like, wait, I taught. Like, I can do this thing and speak in front of people when all eyes being on me. You had a second part to that though. When it doesn't go well, mm-hmm. How do you respond? Because that has happened in my life many times. Oh man, I've now reached a stage in life where I view everything as a learning opportunity. If it goes well, I can celebrate and feel good about it. If something doesn't go well, I can accept it with gratitude, knowing that I need to learn from this. This event happened to teach me something so that I can improve and be better next time. So back in the day, I would just get really down on myself and just be really sad for a time period. Now I think I've been able to shift it and be grateful for it and not take myself so seriously. I'm going to say this and pass it to you. I'm applying your question now to just the teaching context, because that's been my bread and butter for most of my professional career. If a lesson or an evaluation didn't go well, taking that feedback, being grateful that it happened so that I can be better, but then also just not taking myself too seriously. You know, like you
Yeah.
just have to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes, or laugh at situations that don't go your way, and then move on to the next one. We can get really in our head about being perfect at all times,
Mhm.
never saying the wrong thing. I would say it's even applicable to this podcast and GI, embracing the mess.
100%.
Embrace the mess is
Embrace the mess
something that took me
early on,
time
man.
and took us time. Is it doesn't always have to be perfect and look perfect and feel perfect. Sometimes those imperfections can actually lead to fun and to growth,
Yeah.
more importantly. So very long answer for you. That's where I'm thinking though. How would you apply these questions to your life, professionally or personally?
What a great answer. Really, really.
Was it? I feel like
Thoroughly. No.
sometimes I look back and I'm like, did that make
No, it made
sense at
complete
all,
sense
or
to
did
me.
I
No, it
just
made complete sense to me because
cut a promo?
mine's completely context dependent. If it's in the classroom, I just kind of roll with it. It's like, all right, cool. That sucked.
Yeah, you have to.
Moving on. Really, earlier this year, trying to do a review game and really working very hard on all of it, and then having it just sort of peter out. And then we did it, and it's like, even if it worked, it still would have been ass. Like this was not a good review game. Family Freud is never going to be done again in my classroom, even though it has a funny name. And it just didn't work out.
The name is tough for sure.
Yeah, it's great, but
you got that one right.
yeah, but it's just not going to happen, and that's fine. We tried. It's, you know, in the theater, I spent a lot of time in the theater this week, like a lot of time in the theater this week and this weekend. Shout out to all the kids that showed up to work from 10 to 4 yesterday on their Saturday morning to build a great big set, the biggest set that I've ever built. And we are trying to do really cool things. And sometimes it's like, oh, that looks like that's terrible. It's just dreadful. Like how did that happen? And there's not much you can do about it other than go like, all right, let's just fix it. Let's move on. And if it stinks, it stinks. Like whatever, it's not going to affect my day to day. So like, why do I care? So you just have to kind of keep going forward. There are times where I feel like somebody else has let me down, or has let me down, and now I can't do my job or can't do my responsibility. That's the part that I have a harder time letting go of. I feel I get all in my head about it. And if I feel like I've let other people down, then it's different. But if I just have a lot of anticipation for something and it doesn't go as planned, like you, I just look at it as a learning experience and just change my behavior. This year, my behavior was don't go to the AEW event because of the fight and the transphobia in front of us last year. And then FOMO won. And you know what? AEW also had some growing during that time because they announced before the event, hey, none of this is tolerated. And if you do it, you're out of here. And some of those things were included on that list. And I had a great night. The show was incredible. And I wish I would have had closer seats, but my seats were awesome. I got to be a couple of feet away from Sting. Like, no complaints. So I think, you got to learn from it and always forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think too, that was beautiful. And you gave me flowers. I need to give them to you right back. Forgiving others, maybe to your point there, Brad, who you feel like may have wronged you, forgiving others, and then also forgiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that word of forgiveness is so crucial. Like just move on to the next one. You tried your best in that moment, but tomorrow's a new day, next semester's a new day, the next lesson's a new day. Let's move forward and let's build. Let's do this thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of AEW, I got a question for you. The Revolution card is starting to shape out. Hangman versus Swerve versus Joe is going to be amazing. Bryan Danielson is vying for Eddie Kingston's Continental Crown or Championship or whatever we're calling it.
No idea.
I simply could have looked this up beforehand, but
I still don't understand it.
I don't either. I think it's about
Continental, Intercontinental. What's happening?
One of his three. We're getting Sting's farewell against the EVP Bucks. And of course, Deonna Purrazzo is looking to dethrone Timeless Tony. That's just to name a few matches. Let's stick with the women's division. I believe it would be a huge disservice if Julia Hart does not defend her TBS championship in Greensboro on March 3rd. Two-part question for you. One, I think Willow is going to be Julia's opponent. Do you agree? 2, with Mercedes Moné presumably debuting with the company in a few weeks in Boston at Big Business, do you think it's more likely that she becomes AEW Women's World Champion or TBS champion first? Doesn't matter.
I'll answer the first one because it's easier. Yes, it's Willow and Julia. Willow's been feuding with Sky. Like this has been building for a while. So I think it has to be Willow, and I think Willow has to win. I think Willow taking the belt off of Julia Hart makes all the sense in the world. I love Julia. I think it's been great. That run needs to stop now. Like this is going back how many months now since Julia misted Willow, right? Like this is
great call.
And she fought it off, and Sky wasn't able to. So it has to be Willow, and I think the crowd will just be all for it too. So yeah, if it gets Willow on the card, I'm good. But having her win would be even better. But I wouldn't be mad if Julia retained either. So because I love both of them. Okay, as far as the other one goes, I think it does matter, and I think it has to be the AEW Women's title. I don't want to like talk down because I feel like talking negatively about the TBS title is like punching down when that's not fair. Christian Cage is the TNT title holder right now. Like it's not punching down. Christian Cage is one of the best in the world. Definitely for heel work on the microphone in the ring, he's incredible. Like it's not a punch down to do that. Julia Hart rules, but I think that championship in particular has been to build younger stars. And I guess I'll just flip you with this question that doesn't really need an answer. Do you think that Mercedes needs to be built? Okay,
no.
So
No,
put her immediately in the title picture. I don't know that she needs to win right away, but I don't think she should be chasing the kind of the star builder title. I think she's already a star, and she should be in that conversation immediately.
For sure. The reason I wanted to ask you about this is, as wrestling fans, as members of the IWC, we get so invested and we think about belts and hierarchies and rankings that sometimes I find myself needing to step back and just watch the show and just enjoy the show for what it is, entertainment, a sport that I love. So that's why I wanted to throw.
You can get a Top Flight and a Young Bucks for no reason.
For no reason.
Yeah.
For no reason. Great reaction from the Texas crowd for Top Flight. I really enjoyed seeing that. And shout out to Queen Aminata as well. I don't know if that's your question, but speaking of receptions, shout out to Queen Aminata too. That's why I wanted to throw in the does it matter, Brad? Because sometimes I'm recognizing I get so in my head and I use my IWC brain that I ask myself, is this a question that even counts? I think this one does. It's exactly what you said. The TBS championship has been presented as a title that builds a new star. It was Jade's title for a long time, as it should be, but then it was for a younger talent, Julia, to help make Julia. For Willow, she's been long overdue to carry gold. I think this will help establish her as not just a fun babyface, but one of the pillars of the women's division. For Mercedes, to this point, Saraya has been the biggest signing for the AEW women's division, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Mercedes now claims that spot in March when she shows up at TD Garden. It does matter for her to become AEW Women's World Champion. Like you, I don't know how quickly that happens, but I suspect she is the woman that takes the gold off of Timeless Tony. I could see that definitely being a double or nothing situation in May, but it does matter for her to carry that gold and to help change the perception of the AEW women's division. I think they're definitely making steps toward changing that. And I think Mercedes carrying that gold would do wonders for, again, for that perception.
The story there writes itself. Tony retains at Revolution. And then out of that, we see Mercedes show up at Big Business. And then she becomes this huge star. I know what you meant when people are going to might hear you say like Saraya has been the biggest signing for the women's division. I think they might interpret that as the best in-ring wrestler. She's the biggest star they've signed.
Two different things. Yeah. Shout out to Saraya. Enjoyed seeing her in Phoenix as well.
She was so good. Yeah. Like I don't think people that haven't seen her live understand like what kind of presence this woman has.
Awesome character, awesome presence. 100,
amazing. Like
100%. I'm
Change.
glad she got a title run. I
I
really am.
I am too. I really like what she does. I like what she brings. I like her in-ring stuff.
Mhm.
I just love Jamie Hayter. It's has nothing
By
to
the
do
way,
with.
who hopefully is coming back this year, and Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné would feed families and could be the
Yes.
first, could
Oh my
be the
God.
first women's main event for a pay per view. That
Yeah.
I mean, I think you laid it out right there, Brad. That's
So
the one. That's the
so
history.
so to your
History
point, I
making.
think Tony Storm retaining and then going into the May pay-per-view as champ sets up Mercedes to win the championship in May, which sets her up to defend it at Forbidden Door.
You're talking
Yeah.
that talk. That's the one.
And then by Wembley, I mean Jamie Hayter, like we got
Yeah, what are we talking about?
whew,
Mercedes going to become champ.
whew.
I could absolutely see her first pay per view, her
Yeah,
getting that match. It just,
yeah, inject it right into my veins.
uh, please,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Pretty amazing. Okay. So mine's pretty brief. So Darby Allin came out this week after the Bucks were beating down Top Flight, and then Tony Schiavone, which is not okay. You leave that poor man alone. I was watching Starcade '87. Tony Schiavone was calling that show. You don't push him down like that. Darby took shots at the EVPs on the mic, which was, I think, awesome. It made a lot of the IWC uncomfortable though, and some people were saying he was working heel and they were in the right. What do you think about this feud heading into Revolution?
It's happened very very quickly. I've always been good with it. Maybe it's the Young Bucks fan in me, but I have so much faith in not only their in-ring work but their ability to tell stories that once they came out and those signs were, we were being basically told that that's going to be Sting's final match. I thought this was going to rule. I'm really excited for it. I know Darby has a very unique promo style. For some people, it's really good. For others, it's not really their cup of tea. I really enjoy Darby. I enjoy his delivery. Uh, I don't know how I feel about him taking a shot at Brandon Cutler. I think Brandon Cutler seems like a good dude, but I specifically, when he said, Brandon, you know who wasn't on the first show? Me. You know who was? Brandon Cutler. I instantly remembered, like, yeah, Darby's right.
In the dragon stuff, right?
The Dragon,
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dungeons and Dragons, Brandon Cutler versus MJF
Yeah.
was on that first Dynamite.
Yeah.
I, I enjoyed it, man. I think the Revolution tag match is going to be awesome. Of course, it's the right decision to make it a tornado match. That's where Sting really has thrived in AEW. This is going to be great. I'm really happy with the storytelling. One, because this match feels like a big deal, as it should. I don't know if it's going to main event Revolution, but it's obviously one of the prominent matches on the card. And two, the Young Bucks really needed a character shift. So it's not
Yeah.
just this is a good opponent for Sting. This also, I think, helps elevate the Bucks and brings them back to prominence. If we would have got the tassel Bucks again with the dollar bills flying, it wouldn't have done anything for me. They're leaning into this new EVP role. The Bucks have always been good at taking what the internet is saying and
Mhm.
incorporating that into their act. This is another example of that. I think the match is going to be great. I know they're going to bump for Sting. I don't know how the match is going to end. I'm sure we'll get into that next week. I'm happy with the story they're telling, and I think the payoff is going to be worth it on March 3rd.
I can't imagine they went out there not knowing that he was going to take a shot at Brandon Cutler and Brandon Cutler not clearing it, because he also tweeted about it.
For real? I missed that.
It's a hilarious tweet. It's sources close to the EVPs say that Brandon Cutler, blah, blah, blah. And it's
Classic.
like from his
Brandon seems like a good dude.
Brandon probably thought it was hilarious. I don't know if he did or not, because like a lot of times wrestlers will say, I'm getting paid either way. So hopefully he's doing well. I kind of miss him on my screen, man. I miss him with the freeze spray. I miss him with all that stuff. I think he could still be in there working with the Bucks. And also, when do you think they start calling themselves the Bucks? Because they're getting closer to retirement. There's nothing young about them. So anyway, we're gonna move on from that. Tyler, I've been looking forward to this. I was thinking of you when I got a rose in my classroom from one of the students. She brought roses for everybody in my class. It was really cool. We did a Valentine's Day thing. We got the little paper baggies and little boxes to put Valentines in and stuff. I sent you a picture of a couple of the little hearts that we did for our support group that week. It was really, really cool, really awesome. But it reminded me that I've been missing a rose from Tyler. So play the music.
And now, for a rose from GI's most eligible bachelor.
That was beautiful. I have some updates for you. 2 episodes this past week. I know we missed a week of a rose, but this past week, Brad, we got 2 episodes of The Bachelor, which is pretty rare. Both were 2 hours, so we get some 4 hours of Bachelor content, which is totally unnecessary, but thoroughly enjoyable for me at the same time. Joey and the crew, his ladies, went to Europe. A Bachelor signature returned, the infamous 2-on-1 date. They usually bring this out when 2 contestants are beefing and only one can survive. They did it again here. Sydney and Maria have had this ongoing feud. In summary, very predictably, Joey said goodbye to Sydney, and Maria from Canada stayed. I actually tend to like Maria, which is kind of a hot topic in Batch Nation, but I'm good with her. Lexi, my only preseason pick remaining, had an awesome one-on-one with Joey and emerged as a front runner. She even was super vulnerable, Brad, and shared about her struggle with endometriosis and fertility. And it really made me think about the experience of women in our world, and how as men, there are just some things we just don't have to worry about. We have our own potential issues and, need to unlearn a lot of stuff. But for women and fertility, just how emotional that process can be, and how it just made me think a lot and reflect on the amazing women in my life that I know, and just maybe the battles they go through. So really good one-on-one with Lexi and Joey. There was a group date. There's no transition for this. There was a group date sausage competition.
What is that?
Which then totally reversed my feelings on The Bachelor.
Please clarify. What?
I shall clarify for you. So I didn't even realize I structured it where there would be such a juxtaposition here. But this may even be a trailer. I don't know. So it's as awful as it sounds. And the heartwarming thing I said about The Bachelor, now they just juxtapose it later in the episode with a sausage competition. So they had this roundabout, this thing was just moving in circles with sausages suspended from it, hanging. And so, I see your reaction right now. Check us out on YouTube, by the way, if you haven't. And if you are on YouTube, thank you. It sounds as bad as it was, Brad. There were just sausages suspended in the air, and without using their hands, Joey and the women had to try to grab it. I won't fully demonstrate here, but they had to try to grab it with their mouths. What purpose this served, I don't know. These are the competitions that make Batch and Batch Nation look super ridiculous.
Are you burying the lead here? Are they dressed like medieval knights and stuff?
And there was a medieval Renaissance vibe.
What the hell is this?
Yes. When in Europe, I guess. Shout out to our European listeners. I've never been. I don't know. Yeah, it was a thing that happened. Do you want me to continue, or you need?
I don't even know what to say. Just keep going.
It was absurd. No,
it's vile.
Other than just being in Europe, there was no good reason for that. I was just upset in the moment that I was being forced to watch this. But in hindsight, I guess it's ridiculous and maybe a little bit funny. But here's my question for you, Brad. Thinking about this date, this competition, I want to know, I think our listeners and viewers deserve to know this. Another 2-part question. Where's a place you would never take Jess on a date ever again? And then if we can flip that, if we can juxtapose that, where's a spot that you really want to take her all these years later?
I don't know if there's a place that we went for a date that's like we can never go there again. Other than we've gone to some restaurants and stuff where we've had to wait for seemingly hours. I remember going to one place. I can't remember even the name of the place. I just remember sitting down. We waited about 25 minutes before somebody came with a menu. and then gave us some water. 20 minutes go by, and then we take our orders. Basically, from the time that we were seated to the time we left, it was almost 3.5 hours just to go to dinner. And it was like, what a waste of time. It was great to have like time to have a conversation, but I don't know how you are when you're hungry, but I get really hangry. Like I'm like a toddler with that stuff. So like if I don't have food in front of me very quick, like at least bring me out some bread. If I would have paid like $29.95 for 3 tortellini, like bring it out, man. Like do something. Or get me drunk. One of the two. Like start bringing out free cocktails for waiting this long. Anything would be fun there, but not a lot of places. There was one Mexican restaurant that we went to that no longer exists. So I can't not take her there anymore. It's gone. It's out of my decision making. Bro, we got in the car and about 5 minutes into the drive home, we were arguing who gets to use the toilet first, because there was one toilet in our apartment and it was like, it was going to be a crime if we didn't make it. We both got hit by whatever they fed us. And
you were married. You were married at this point.
We were married at this point.
Because if you were just dating, that would be a real.
I don't actually know. It was we were either married, or it was, and it would have been our first like 6 months in marriage, or it was before we got married. We might have been engaged.
But you had been with each other for some time at that point.
Yeah, a couple years. Yeah. Okay. Not enough to be like who has to shit in a sink. Is not a conversation I thought I'd be having that quickly into a relationship.
Embrace the mess.
If we can, yeah. No. Avoid the mess, Tyler. Like nobody wanted a mess. That was the whole point of the conversation was it's going to be a mess. Where would we like to have this mess? I would like to take her literally anywhere at this point. We haven't been on a date so long. I forgot what dating feels like. Our last date, I think, was our anniversary. That was in June. So we haven't been able to spend any time alone together. That hasn't been like we have to spend time alone together because we got to go do this tax thing, or we got to go sign off on these mortgage things, or whatever else it is. It's just sort of life takes over. And I would love to go out to dinner with her. I'd like to go to Michelangelo's, go eat, nice lighting, just relax. That was our last real date. But in all reality, I'd love to go to England. I would love to go to Europe. I would love to go to Hawaii for that matter. I'd love to do all those things, and I'd love it to be with Chess. But right now, I just want to go to Disney World with Chess and Freya because I think it would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
I heard about that one before. I was hoping you would mention that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can already imagine the pictures and the amazing time.
The custom lightsabers that I'll be buying for myself. Yeah.
The everything of it all. Brad, what did we miss?
Oh man, we missed so many things. This week I missed time to do anything. We did not talk about the All-Star game. We did not talk about heels on the Detroit Pistons. We did not talk about like a whole bunch of things. I wrote down some things that we missed, and honestly, there's so many that I don't think we can get into it. I also know that I miss sleep. Cheers. What did we miss, Tyler?
Period. I got a list for you. Ashe second show. Ashe Black History Month is this weekend, along with the Elimination Chamber. Easy for me to say, being this weekend
at 3 a.m. our time. I believe.
Think so. Definitely checking out the replay of that. Yeah. But some good graps heading into this weekend. Like you said, the dust up between Isaiah Stewart and Drew Eubanks, Pistons versus Suns. That was very ironic and surprising. The belt that they awarded Steph Curry after he defeated Sabrina Ionescu, definitely an everything is wrestling vibe, but then also a dollar store vibe. I don't know who oversaw the design of that belt, but I hope they're still employed, and we should give them forgiveness because that thing was atrocious.
It looked a little bit like the company that we got the belt for you in, where it like laser engraves the top of it, but then no thought went into it whatsoever after that.
They had 24 hours to get this thing done. They just forgot. They got the light up court. They got Dominique Wilkins is there, but they just didn't. They didn't do right by the belt. And then finally, 2 ones for you. Sticking with basketball, the book ones are here. We discussed Devin Booker's sneakers, I think over summer. And somehow we blinked a few times. It's February, and now they are available. They sold out, but more colorways hopefully coming soon.
Absolutely crazy that those things sold out.
It's wild. Final item that we missed: Rachel Dolezal, the artist formerly known as Rachel Dolezal, lives in Tucson. Was teaching at Catfoot at the Catalina Foothills District. For those who haven't been to Tucson, Catfoot is the more affluent part, or probably the most affluent district in Tucson, I would argue, Brad.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Rachel Dolezal, you can look her up if you're not familiar with her game. She was released, if I can use a wrestling term, this week from her teaching job once her OnlyFans was discovered. She was actively promoting her OnlyFans. It's not as if someone discovered it and she's out of a job. But this is a name I haven't thought of, Brad, in years. I had no idea she was by you in the old Pueblo. Of course, I also didn't know she had an OnlyFans, but I found that interesting. So my takeaways from that are, I have no takeaways other than pay teachers more. And Rachel Dolezal is still in the news.
Yeah, it is funny she got arrested during Black History Month. I'm just going to throw that out there because I thought that was one of the funniest things to ever happen. It's just...
you haven't Googled Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, if you haven't
familiarized yourself. There's a lot of context here from years ago. That's important.
I don't know what else to add there. Tyler, it's been a week.
It has been a week.
Yeah.
You can find our articles on wrestling, pop culture, and more by visiting gimmickinfringementpod.com. You can also follow us on social media. Search GIPod19 or Gimmick Infringement. Of course, we're on X at GIPod19. Let us know what you thought about all of these stories. We would love your input. We thank you so much, as always, for being here, and we hope you'll join us again for the next edition of GI. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.